Welcome back, it's me, Lou, and I'm here for another action figure review and unboxing, and today we are looking at this. This comes from Mattel, and it is their WWE Championship Showdown. We have Paul White, the Giant, versus Ric Flair. And this is Series 2, and in this double pack, you also get two championship side plates, which also double as figure stands. There's one with the Giant, and there's another one with Ric Flair. And if we look at the package, the figures are beautifully framed in their bubble. We have the Giant on the left and Ric Flair on the right. And here we have the back. And we have up close. This is weird. This looks like this photo of the Big Show looks weird because it looks photoshopped. Because it looks like, I don't remember. So the Big Show, when he was in WCW, he was never this big. He was a lot bigger in WWE. Like if you go back and watch his older videos, he was a lot skinnier. And it looks like they took a more recent, not like super recent, but maybe like a photo of Big Show from maybe like 10 years ago, and then kind of like this Photoshop, this long hair on him. But Big Show was never this, I don't know, this thick back in the day. And then here we have Ric Flair. So let's read this brief description here. So we have Championship Showdown, the Giant versus Ric Flair, April 29th, 1996. WCW was where the big boys played, and there was no one bigger in WCW than the Giant. The young monster was hungry for the WCW Championship, but there was one problem. The title was held by the dirtiest player in the game, Ric Flair. The Nature Boy pulled out every trick in the book to take down the big man, but it just wasn't enough to stop the unstoppable Giant. And as you can see here, this action figure, this 2-pack, as I mentioned previously, it includes 2 side plates. So if you have the toy belt, you can actually swap in the nameplates, or you can use the nameplates as an actual action figure stand, which I think is kind of cool. I dig that a lot. Also in this wave, there's Kane versus Edge and The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan. So let's take a look at these action figures. This is kind of cool. There's the thin cardboard insert. I'm not sure what you could do with this. I mean, I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to keep this and put it somewhere, like at my desk at work, but then I'd look like a crazy man. I kind of like this concept of the side plates that come with the figures. I love that it's dual function, that you can either use it as a side plate for if you have the toy belts. But I also just like it as an action figure stand. I love action figure stands because action figures don't always stand well on their own. And these are cool. They kind of have like this weird glow, like gold sticker with the wrestler's character title. And on the back, yeah, the WWE logo kind of like, I don't know, sculpted onto it. It's really nice. Yeah, this is cool. I like these stands. Ric Flair one's kind of cool too. The Nature Boy, 16-time champion, Ric Flair. Woo! And we have our two figures in their plastic tray. First impressions. They're cool. But it's kind of, I don't know. There's something about like the Big Show figure is awesome. Or the Giant, it's really tall. But there's something about his face that's really throwing me off. The Ric Flair is awesome. I love this era of Ric Flair. Okay, one thing that's really bothering me, I mean, it's not bothering me a lot, but it's enough to notice, is that The flesh tones on the Giant, aka Big Show, they don't match. Like if you look, I think you can even see this on the camera. Like his torso's a different flesh tone than his arms, and his head's a different flesh tone than his torso, and slightly different than his arms. His legs are a different flesh tone than his torso and his arms and his head. So it's weird. This guy almost has like 3 different flesh tones going on. But this is a basic figure. I want to say I might have paid $15 for this at Walmart, which was great for 2 figures, especially the size of the Big Show. Now this isn't going to be at the same level as the WWE Elite action figures. Those are a lot pricier. Those are a lot more articulated. Those come with more accessories. These are very, very basic figures. They're from Mattel's like basic core line of WWE action figures. A figure like this on its own in their basic line normally retails for under $10. And it shows you're not going to get all the articulation that you would with an Elite figure or an Ultimate figure. But I think if you're a child, they're fun to play with, and if you're a collector, they're affordable, and they're nice. I like them a lot. I used to have a friend that back in the day, that's all he'd collect would be the WWE basic figures because they're super affordable for him. For him, buying the Elite figures was a little bit pricier, but he loved buying the basic figures, especially back when we used to have Toys R Us in the U.S. Like every now and then Toys R Us would have these sales, especially for their WWE basic figures, and you could buy a whole bunch of them for like cheap. Ric Flair, I like this Ric Flair a lot. I love this. I love his hairstyle. I think this is the only figure we've gotten of Ric Flair with the short hair, and for me, this really takes me back to this period of time. For me, the iconic of Ric Flair is always going to be Ric Flair from like the mid 80s, from anywhere between 84 to like 88. That's like the Ric Flair that's kind of like ingrained in my head. But this is cool. He has the shorter hair that he had during like the Monday Night Wars when WWE was going head to head with like Monday Nitro. So these figures, as I've stated previously, their articulation's kind of limited. Their heads rotate, arms rotate, no bicep cut or swivel, but you do have the elbow swivel, elbow joint, waist swivel. The wrists are articulated, they can rotate, and they can actually even bend too. Legs, they just go out and the knee bends, but in the case of here, the knee pads get in the way and you have boot cut swivel. If you had to compare the sizes, the scale here works. Paul White, the Giant, aka the Big Show, is enormous, and yeah, they have no problem recreating the scale here. You're getting a much taller, bigger action figure. I have no recollection of this match, to be honest. It's such a long time ago. But for me, I love having these figures. I have the Mattel WWE WCW themed wrestling ring, and for me it's just great. Having these figures just gives me more figures to fill that ring out with. So not a whole lot to say about these figures. I mean, they're very basic. They're what you expect. The likeness is there. This looks like Ric Flair. This looks like the Big Show. My problem with this figure, though, as I stated previously, it seems like this is a modern Big Show, but they just gave him long hair, and it just doesn't flow well for me. All right, let's take a look at some other figures that I have with me. So, this is a look into the past. These are the old school Toy Biz WCW figures, and we have the Giant, and we have Ric Flair. Now, this Ric Flair is horrible. He has the short hair, but his tan is like, I'm not sure if this is what it looked like when it first came out, or if this is just time and the color just like, I don't know, changing over time and being discolored or whatever, but This is a very, very orange action figure, and I don't know. I think part of me wants to say I think this is this, the figure hasn't aged well, literally. Maybe when this figure was first released, maybe this flesh tone was a little bit lighter and looked correct, but it's very orange. And this Toy Biz Paul White giant figure, this is awesome. I bought this a couple years ago. I threw out my original ones that I had back in the day, and I hated myself for it. But I found this on, I think, eBay or Amazon. I got it new, and it's awesome. I love the Toy Biz WCW figures. They had cool play features, like this guy squeezes his legs together, and then he does a choke slam. His thumb's articulated so it could grasp things. And he just looked cool. The likeness, I mean, this likeness is terrible. It doesn't look like Paul White at all, but it was a cool action figure to have at the time. And here's a comparison. We have the modern Mattel take on this version of Paul White during the late 90s. And then we have the actual figure itself from that time period. So it's cool. It's kind of like a history lesson. And then we have the two Ric Flairs, the Toy Biz one, and the Mattel one. The one thing I do like about the Toy Biz one is that it has Ric Flair in his trademark colors, the red tights. But I don't know. They both have the logo, his initials on the front of his tights. This one has the Four Horsemen logo on the back. This one doesn't. They both have the initials on the boots. I think this figure kind of falls short in that they gave him black wrist tape, and I don't think Flair ever wore black wrist tape. So I don't know. It's kind of jarring. And the likeness on him, this doesn't look like Ric Flair. It looks more like his son. Looks like David Flair, kinda. Or even referee Charles Robinson. I don't know. So yeah, let's wrap this up. So if I had to rate these figures numerically, this guy's at a 7. It's Ric Flair. I think I would have rated him higher if they gave him the red tights. But honestly, I can appreciate the green tights with the yellow boots, because that is a look that he had back in the day. And this might have been accurate to the match. Like I said, I don't remember the match all too well, if anything. So if this is the gear he wore during the match, then it's perfect. This Big Show figure, I don't know, a 6. I'm glad that I have him. I'm glad that he's actually tall and he dwarfs Ric Flair. But the likeness bothers me because it looks like it's just a more mature, modern Big Show head, but they just gave him the long hair. And the fact that his flesh tones don't match on his legs, arms, and head kind of hurts the figure a little. But it's a good figure to have in your collection. Despite their numbers, I'd say that if you're fond of the WCW era of action figures, you kind of need these. And I don't know, I love these figure stands. I think they're awesome. So I think this is a must-get, despite their somewhat average scores. The Flair, I think, is clearly the winner of this, especially if you need a short-haired Flair. I don't think they make one. So, and if you have other Ric Flairs, if you want to give them different color tights, just do a head swap. Okay, let's sign off here. So once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, like I am, these figures, I don't know, they're fun, they're awesome. If you have a kid that's into pro wrestling, I think these are must-gets. The playability is kind of high, especially since they're cheaper figures and they're affordable. So, come back and visit me anytime, and I'm sure I'll have more fun toys to look at. Take care.